What is up? Back with Coaching with Callihan. I'm Shane Callihan. Thanks for coming to another episode. This one is going to be about three different words again. And I actually had a buddy of mine give me some good advice about talking about what I'm doing with FYL coaching. And I thought that was a great idea. Kind of giving some more insight, like where I'm at and what I'm learning. And I thought it'd be really cool kind of to start that, because then 10 years from now, look back and see how far I've come. So we're going to keep this one short and sweet today. The three words that we're going to be talking about are compassion, grace, and redemption, and how those tie in and what I'm doing. So compassion, grace, and redemption. Those came to mind earlier this week because of just reflecting back on my own life and what I've done and how I've been able to redeem myself in certain ways. Just working with other people too and giving them compassion and being graceful with myself. I'm very hard on myself. It's something I'm still working on. I have these big aspirations, and I am a motivated individual. I am ambitious. I am also lazy. I'm not afraid to admit that. So it's just a constant battle of me being disciplined enough to keep moving forward and finding out ways to accomplish the goal, right? Like just to keep moving. And it takes a lot of grace for yourself to be able to move forward without being too hard and not beating yourself up too much and overthinking everything. You definitely have to have room for grace, right? And so that's where I want to make sure everyone understands that grace for yourself is so important to keep moving forward and to give yourself just a little bit of a break, right? Like take accountability over what you're doing, and as you're taking accountability for all the wrongs, you can take accountability for all the rights. Make sure you're taking accountability for being a little bit more graceful with yourself, and then compassion for others. It's so important to have compassion, understanding for others. It helps you grow your patience. It helps them trust you. It builds that bond between you and your teammates, your coworkers, your family, your friends. Having a compassionate and understanding perspective allows deeper conversations to happen. You're not just coming from a judgmental perspective or standpoint. You're not coming from a place of like uncomfortability for that person, if that makes sense. So for instance, like with coworkers that are new to the industry that I'm working in, like trade shows it's a niche, right? It's a very specific niche of an industry. And not everybody's going to know like how trade shows run as far as like expectations, coordination. It takes a lot of logistics, a lot of planning, a lot of understanding, a lot of like questions that need to be asked, and preparation. You really got to just expect the unexpected sometimes, and you've got to just be able to adapt as quickly as possible. So anyway, there's a lot of different things you have to think about and a lot of different things you have to do, and not everybody's going to pick up on it super quick. Not everybody's going to understand what the expectations are right away. So you've got to help them pick up the pieces where they're at, right? You can't just drag them along. You can't just expect them to know everything that you know within a certain time frame. You can't put any sort of time frame on anybody in any industry or any circumstances. You can have these expectations, and you can have an agreed upon expectation of you're going to meet these standards at this moment, right? When it comes to learning curves, you got to give them some grace and some compassion too, right? So with this newer team that we're working with, we're hiring people with great attitudes, and thankfully they're bright. there are some things that there are miscommunications, misunderstandings that happen, and it can be frustrating when like certain questions come up or certain ideas come up that just don't sound like good ideas, or things are forgotten about, mistakes are made, yada yada, right? All of that is their individual learning curve, and you have to realize that as they're going through this, we want to have a positive experience so that they can learn and grow from that experience. We don't want them to feel like beat up in a certain way. We don't want them to feel neglected or just hard on themselves either, right? So you bring up okay, first off, you bring up what was the issue? How did you handle the issue? What was the mistake you made? How are we going to correct it? Right? You bring all of these things to light. What other possible solutions are there? Try to think like a 360 view of this issue, and ask them, okay, with all of these solutions in place, which one sounds good to you? Which one do you think would work best next time? And how are we going to prevent this from moving forward, right? So like whenever I had issues or whenever I made mistakes, or whenever I forgot about something, if I didn't write it down, I forgot about it, like, okay, I need to write it down. That's a simple one. Or if I just didn't think all the way through a situation, like, oh, okay, that's news to me, like that's brand new to me. I didn't think it all the way through because I didn't notice this side of the issue as sort of planning, like I didn't think so-and-so was going to get involved, or I didn't think that, let's say, the day you could have gone in earlier, but you went in a day later because you're like, there's no big deal, it's no different. Like, why would I go in a day later? Well, shoot, if I go in a day earlier now, I can prevent that problem from happening again. More time to react, right? You want to buy yourself as much time as possible to react. So stuff like that. Like you think of whatever the problem was, you think of, okay, how is it solved in the emergency setting? How can I solve it in a non-emergency setting? And then how can I prepare myself to prevent that problem from occurring again? And what am I going to do to take those actionable steps to prevent that problem from happening again as well? Like who do I need to get involved, right? So you have your own steps you're going to be taking, and then who else needs to be involved in creating that solution as well. So at the end of the day, anyway, you come up with the compassionate perspective of making sure that they understand where you're coming from, that you want to help them, you want them to be better in their position, and that you're understanding that the mistake was made and that they acknowledge that, and there doesn't have to be any hard feelings. Nobody needs to come down on each other. There's no kicking and screaming. I think as adults, everybody understands the consequences of the mistakes and that we don't need to harp on them about it. I like to poke fun. I try to lighten it up. Like if somebody makes a mistake and it's obvious that they're mentally hurting about it and emotionally hurting about it, then I'll try to lighten it up a little bit. I'm a big shit talker, so I'll talk shit, and then I'll also kind of draw a line where I know somebody's gonna be a little more sensitive to the topic, so I'm not gonna talk shit to them about it. I'll poke fun in a different way, but I want them to know like it's not a big deal. It's okay. Like it'll be okay. We're gonna survive through it. Like nobody was hurt, right? If nobody was hurt, then great. Like that's the first thing. The second thing is, what are we gonna do moving forward? What practices or processes need to be put in place to prevent that from happening? And what's the fastest way to recover too? I think that isn't looked at enough in corporate life. Obviously, in coaching, it's looked at really like extensively of how fast can we recover from the mistake and move beyond to the next thing, right? So that was my big thing. Like I talked in my last podcast, is the resilience part of it. Like I'm an emotional guy. I sit and I just ruminate on these issues and these problems and how I could have fixed them, right? I go through 1,000 scenarios in my head of what could have gone better. And at the time, I didn't realize this, right? And I'm sure Andy, my coach, was really trying hard to get me to think about this. But it just doesn't matter what happened then, right? It doesn't matter what happened then. What matters is happen next. I never clicked. It never clicked in my head that, it's what happens next. And just because I sat and I thought, I'm like, damn, like if I had the opportunity again, I'm never going to have the opportunity again. I'm never going to have the same opportunity twice. And I kept sitting on that. So like that, the recovery, you want the recovery to be just as important as the lesson learned. And the recovery is, all right, shake it off, spend 30 seconds on it, send whatever, 30 minutes, a day at most, is how much you should be thinking about that mistake, and then flush it out. Just let it go, right? Make sure you remind yourself of what your new processes or steps are, write them down, work on those, but don't dwindle. Don't, just think about like the past and the past mistake. So that's compassion in my mind. And again, that's grace. And as far as redemption, so this is something that's sometimes hard for people who are impatient, is the redeeming factors that go into play when mistakes happen, right? And this is also for those who get their feelings hurt easily and lose trust fast, right? Which is like majority of the world. If you get your feelings hurt and you lose your trust, like it's extremely hard to get it back. Not saying that that's easy for just everybody, but the redemption side of things, this is where a lot of the growth will happen, right? This is where we see the growth. It's one thing to acknowledge the mistakes. It's one thing to put the processes in place in that moment, but it's another thing when you actually see the growth and the redeeming factor of somebody after the mistake has been made, and you can see them catching everything prior to that mistake happening again. Well, I shouldn't say prior to the mistake happening again, preventing the mistake from happening again. So redemption can go either way, right? You can wait for the redeeming qualities of that person, or your own redemption is to come, right? You made the mistake. Now it's time to redeem yourself and prove that you learn from that mistake, that you will do better, that you will be either more forward thinking, you'll be less reactionary in a negative sense, you'll be more proactive, you'll be more communicative, you'll take more ownership, you'll be more of a team player, more of a leader, whatever you need to be, right? That's the redeeming factor, and that's where I think it's really important to be able to redeem yourself and also give the opportunity of redemption for that individual as well. Like, you can't just write them off that they made that mistake, that they're done and gone. You have to give them the time, the space, and you have to give them the energy too. Make sure you give them the encouragement. Empowerment is so important, and we tend to lose that positive side of things because we want to write them off as like a liability, not really necessarily an asset anymore. But that's where you have to give them the chance to redeem themselves, to build up that consistency again. And it's not to say they won't make the same mistake twice, because that does happen, but look at the circumstances too. Make sure the circumstances aren't all the same. If the circumstances of them making a mistake are the same, then there's an issue, and that's a personal issue, and they're not growing. And that's where, okay, you can start kind of putting two and two together, that this person is not changing. Like, we have the processes in place. Why is this happening? We have the system in place. Why is this happening? Is this person not in the right situation or circumstances? And is it self-inflicted or is it team-inflicted? Are they being held up because of leadership? Are they being held up because of lack of decision-making powers? Are they being held up because they're waiting on somebody else to make the decisions? But there's that part, and then the other part of the circumstances is, are they putting themselves in these circumstances because they're not showing up? Like, are they not present? Are they not learning, right, from this situation? Because I feel like people can make the same mistake twice or more than that, but they're in different circumstances. They could have been distracted because of life events going on. They could have missed the opportunity because of some other opportunity that came up at the same time, and they just didn't have the mental capacity, or they blanked on it, right, because of something else bigger that came up. So there's certain situations or circumstances you have to kind of play into, and then you walk them through it again. Have the compassion to walk them through it again. Have the grace to walk them through it again. Okay, this situation's different. Why did this mistake happen again? Because of the situation. And you're not condemning them again. You're working with them. You want to be a good leader, coach, teammate, and you're walking through the scenario. And then how do we prevent this situation from happening again? How can I best serve you in preventing this situation from happening again? If you're ever overloaded, what can I do to jump in? Like, stuff like that. You start asking a bunch of questions to assist and make them redeem themselves. Again, it gives you an opportunity too. What if they messed up because you didn't even pay attention to what was going on, and they could have used your help? Like, their workload, you're obviously in tune with their workload, but you're not actually doing anything about it. Like you're not helping them. You're like, oh, this week they have a lot on their plate. Maybe I should offer some support, some assistance. And I know some people are touchy about their workloads. They don't want to seem weak, for lack of a better description. They don't want to seem weak or insecure about how much work they're doing. They want to, everybody wants to be a hard worker. Everybody wants to prove themselves. So the way you approach certain people has to be different. If you have somebody who's a healthy, mentally healthy worker who understands like where you're coming from and you do offer that support, then great. Like they'll take it, and hopefully they won't abuse that, obviously, but they'll take the help, and you can make it clear too. Draw the line out there. Hey, this week you're overloaded. I want to help you just for this week. Don't expect this to be something I'm willing to jump into, or I shouldn't say that. Sorry, let me take that back. That's the wrong word to use. I would say I see you this week, that you're busy. I want to help support you the best I can. Let me know what I can take off your plate. More than happy to. I guess you wouldn't draw the line there of like, I don't want to do this again in the future, because you will. That's something that you shouldn't walk away from. It would be a separate conversation. Let's just say that. Well, you'd have a different conversation if you notice that that individual starts abusing your service, like starts abusing your help and starts leaning on you too hard. Like, that would be a closed door talk. But for the moment, because it's just in a for sake of conversation in a healthy way, you take on that workload, you help them out, and then the circumstances have then changed. Their workload is lighter. They're able to catch whatever needs to be caught proactively, and you, as long as you can manage it, are helping them make sure they don't make the same mistake twice, or whatever more. That, I think, in like leadership and management, it's so important that you realize that you have just as much of an impact on somebody making a mistake than as they do when they're not in the right situation, circumstances, or they're just forgetful, or whatever the case is. Like, your liability or responsibility of making sure that they are on top of their game is just as important as them being on top of their game, right? We like to kind of think that it's the laissez-faire, fair leadership of let them do what they want to do. I'm going to do what I want to do. If they really do need the help, they'll come and ask me. But other than that, I'm not going to go out of my way to do anything about it. Like, if they're a heavy workload, then if they can handle it, they can handle it. If they can't, then they can come get me. But people aren't comfortable doing that all the time, right? People aren't going to go out of their way to ask for help. They don't want to seem weak. So give them some compassion, give them some grace, and in that insecurity, and be the one that's proactive in that front, and be like, hey, let me help you. Let me take some tasks off, or nuances off of your plate, so that way you can handle these bigger projects or these bigger deadlines that are coming up that I know are important to you, they're important to me, and let's succeed together. I think that's a big thing that management doesn't really pay attention to. And I'm not going to play ignorant here or like arrogant. Everybody's management's teams are different. I would totally love to hear feedback from people who are in healthy management systems, and how their managers or leaders support them, or even managers and leaders themselves support their teams. I'm all about it. My experience is very different, and I'm not blaming my leadership at all. I'm not blaming management at all. I'm taking this as a blessing. It's been a blessing to experience what I've experienced so far, and I'm very thankful for it. And I'm thankful for the different perspectives. Like, I do have cool managers. I've got great teammates. Like, I'm in a very interesting work environment, and I'm not ungrateful for it at all. So, from what how I talk about my experience and where I'm coming from, it's not going to line up with everybody. And then maybe I talk like everything is like for sure, like this is how things are done in certain areas. That's not the case. I know that. I'm sure if I came from a different management style, or I keep saying experience, but that's pretty much it. Like, if I came from a different experience, then maybe what I'm telling you right now would be different. However, it is what it is right where I'm at. So until things change, this is how I'm going to talk from my perspective. Anyway, that's what I'm hoping to be helpful, right? So there's that. Grace, compassion, redemption. And make sure, like, when you're redeeming yourself and when people are redeeming themselves, again, it takes a lot of grace, it takes a lot of compassion for the courage. Like, it takes a lot of courage to come back from the mistake that you made, right? The insecurity that you made or you might have. I think I find so much joy in the comeback story, or like the ability to show that I am better than what had happened, right? If I made the mistake, I know I'm better than that mistake. And I find so much joy in being able to prove that I am better than that mistake in a great way, right? Like, I'm not trying to be cocky. I'm not trying to be overconfident. I don't want people to be envious of, like, wow, like, look at him come back from that kind of thing, right? I just want people to trust me. I want people to be able to work with me and trust me, and trust that I am capable of doing what I can do and what I say I'll do. And I think that those moments, whether we appreciate them in the moment or not, like, they are definitely something we should be proud of when we're able to be a comeback kid, So, all right, enough about that. So what I'm doing now, trying to get this coaching business off the ground, the niche. So I've been establishing a niche. I've known the niche for forever, but I just never thought that it was an actual niche. I just thought, like, okay, like, motivation and like, I want to be a motivational speaker. I want to be a motivational coach, accountability coach, essentially. So I want to be hired to be a personal accountability coach and help people take more accountability over their lives, like their lifestyle, their careers, their goals, and then move them into the right direction, right? Put them on the trajectory for their growth and their accountability for success. Like, I want them to take accountability for their failures, and then let's put them on the accountability track for success. That's sort of the niche. The other part of it too is the communication. Being a good communicative person, a great communicative person, solves so many problems. And I've come to realize this last week, like, those would be the two foundations. If somebody were to ask me what two foundations, or what are the foundations of a successful person, I would say there's two. It's accountability and communication. If you're accountable for all your actions and all your faults, then you should be just as accountable for all your success, right? And then it puts you on the trajectory for more positive outcomes. And then communication is so important, because communication, we can't be successful without working without people. Like, you just can't be successful alone. And that's where communication comes in. It's so important to be able to communicate effectively and efficiently with people, so they understand what your vision is, what your goal is, which direction you want to go, and have the confidence, to be able to talk to whoever and run, right? So those are the two foundations I would say that would make people super successful, is accountability and communication. And then there's a lot of byproducts that come from those two things when those are the foundations, the pillars, let's say the pillars. So anyway, trying to get into that niche, trying to put myself out there more. It's extremely difficult, and I'm trying to present myself in a non-trendy way. So this is more of a personal, some personal insight about me. I'm not a trendy person. I hate trends. I like going against the grain. Like, I like going against the flow. I think it's just because of the personality in me is, like, I just want to stand out in that kind of way, where I'm seen as somebody who's, like, rebellious, right? And I don't know. I don't want to be an influencer. I'm not trying to be some social media influencer, and I know that that's what, like, gets all the hits. But that's not what coaching isn't pretty. Like, being a coach and being an athlete, being in the trenches of life, like, it's not pretty. Like, and I don't want social media to make that out to be like I'm this cool trendy coach that can get you from point A to point B doing these really cool trendy things. It's like, no, it's a grind. Like, it takes a lot of grit. It takes a lot of a lot of emotional courage and a lot of strain to get from point A to point B, and I want to be there right with that individual, and I want that to show. I want to show that, right. I want that to be my image, and I want to show too, like, I'm not scared to go through the depths of whatever trench you're in or hole you've dug yourself in. I'll meet you down there with you. So that's what I'm working on, is trying to present myself in a way where I'm still attractive, like in the sense of people want to work with me, right? I still attract that coaching sense, and the other part is that I got to be able to project that I know what I'm talking about. Yeah, I think that's the next goal is, so I want to get 5 people. So I have 5 openings right now. I want 5 people to join my team, and not team, sorry, to be clients. I want 5 people to be clients, so that before the end of the year, so that I can coach and grow and help them grow. And then by the end of the summer next year, I'll have 10, and so on and so forth, maybe more, hopefully more. But that's where I'm at. So marketing, advertising myself has been the challenge lately, and trying to get people to see, like, this is the kind of coach I am. I'm not going to fold to trends like, or the frou-frou. I keep thinking frou-frou. Frou-frou has been in my mind a lot lately. That kind of shit. So anyway, there you go. Podcast of the week. Hope you guys enjoyed it. I'll see you next time. Bye. As soon as I can hit stop. There we go.